All right, everybody. Recently, our boy Joe did a big speech. And it was a speech about Trump and about the way that Trump is trying to destroy American democracy. And I've heard a lot of things about it. I've heard some people really liked it. I heard some people didn't like it. Apparently, Vosh didn't like it. But I've spoken to a few of my friends who are a little bit more like liberal leaning who really did like it. And I'm genuinely curious because I've heard groups of people that I think are generally pretty, well-reasoned tell me their opinions are like opposite here. So I'm really curious. I haven't seen the full speech myself. I've seen some clips, and I actually thought the clips of the speech I saw were pretty solid. But I haven't seen this whole speech like in full. I've got it here up from C-SPAN. We're obviously a few days late to this one, but I don't think that's a big deal. I imagine some of you haven't seen it either. So for those of you guys who haven't gotten this gap in your knowledge filled in, you can now with my video. So here it is. President Biden on Donald Trump. You can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-America. As you can imagine, with the election year coming, well, being here, we are in the election year. The election season is what's coming. You can imagine that Biden's going to be focusing a lot more on his rhetoric around his soon-to-be opponent, Trump. Even though he won against Trump once, doesn't guarantee a win against Trump a second time. He's got to lock that shit in, and heavily hammering in on how Trump tried to destroy our democracy in response to losing the last election is a pretty good winning strategy, but it can't be the only strategy. It's not good enough on its own. But I do hope to see Biden have some pretty scathing rhetoric about Trump here in regards to his support for the insurrection. Let's see. I'm excited.
Just visit the grounds of Valley Forge. I've been there a number of times from the time I was a Boy Scout years ago. It's the very site that I think every American should visit. Because it tells the story of the pain and the suffering and the true patriotism it took to make America. Today we gather in a new year, some 246 years later, just one day before January 6th. A date forever shared in our memory because it was on that day that we nearly lost America, lost it all. Today, we're here to answer the most important of questions. Is democracy still America's sacred cause? I mean it.
I think Biden maybe doesn't benefit much from the fact he's not very high energy. He doesn't benefit much from the fact he's not a very high energy guy, but his rhetoric itself is solid, I do think that a lot of people on the left are starting to treat the insurrection a bit like Russia, Donald Trump was accused of working with Russia to try and deface Hillary and improve his chances of winning the election. He was accused of collusion with Russia, right? This was tried. Several of his fall guys in his campaign were found guilty and sentenced to federal prison for this. However, Donald Trump, having fall guys, got away with it. And to this day, even lots of lefties claim the Russia thing was a hoax or the Russia thing was a nothing burger and that it wasn't like anything at all, when it very much was. It's just that Trump had fall guys and they took the fall for him. But there were convictions. It was found that, yes, Trump's campaign worked and was colluding with Russia. It was found, and people were convicted for it because it's against the law. It's just that Trump himself wasn't found legally liable for that. I do think that the left has a problem with, once something like that's happened, just sort of almost rolling with the conservative narrative that it was a nothing burger, but it was never a nothing burger. It's always been something that was a thing. That was a big thing. And people just moved on from it and forgot about it. And I'm really worried the same thing is going to happen with January 6th if Donald Trump doesn't face legal consequences, that even the left is going to move on from it and forget about it and not talk about it anymore, when it is not the kind of thing that should be forgotten about or let go by any means.
This is not rhetorical, academic, or hypothetical. Whether democracy is still America's sacred cause is the most urgent question of our time. And it's what the 2024 election is all about. The choice is clear. Donald Trump's campaign is about him, not America, not you. Donald Trump's campaign is obsessed with the past.
This is great. No, he's cooking. Dark Brandon is cooking here, dude.
Not the future. He's willing to sacrifice our democracy, put himself in power. Our campaign is different. For me and Kamala, our campaign is about America. It's about you. It's about every age and background that occupy this country. It's about the future we're going to continue to build together. And our campaign is about preserving and strengthening our American democracy. 3 years ago tomorrow, we saw with our own eyes the violent mob storm the United States Capitol. It was almost in disbelief as you first turned on the television. For the first time in our history, insurrectionists had come to stop the peaceful transfer of power in America.
For the first time in American history, a Confederate flag flew at the U.S. Capitol. Because an insurrectionist, they flew Confederate flags as they came into the Capitol. So for the first time ever, a Confederate flag flew at the U.S. Capitol.
First time. Smashing windows, shattering doors, attacking the police. Outside, gallows were erected as the MAGA crowd chanted, "Hang Mike Pence." Inside, they hunted for Speaker Pelosi. The House was chanting as they marched through and smashed windows, "Where's Nancy?"
There was also that one clip of the guy threatening the Capitol police officer on video saying, we're not leaving till we have... I forget. I think it might have been Pence, or it was either Nancy Pelosi or Pence's head. They were there to kill elected officials. Do we not remember the videos of senators and shit barely escaping the mob? Hold on. Barely escapes Jan 6th mob caught on video. Who remembers this clip?
Look at
new video shows Representative Annie Custer narrowly escaping a mob on January 6th. Wow, 7 days ago. Really? This story is from a long time ago. Is this a new clip of another time this happened during the Capitol insurrection? Jesus, I remember hearing about this from years ago when it actually when Jan 6th happened.
Look at new video released from the January 6th attack 3 years after it happened. It shows just how close the people who stormed the Capitol got to members of Congress, including one from the Granite State. At the beginning of the video, Representative Annie Custer, in a blue jacket, is one of several members evacuated from House chambers. Just 30 seconds later, some of the crowd that was outside the Capitol made it inside the building, walking right by the door to chambers where members of Congress had just been hiding.
What are the zip ties and the bear mace all about? Did they intend to take us as hostages? I mean, that clearly would have disrupted the election.
There was that one mayor or governor that was they uncovered a plan to kidnap her by a Republican Trump supporter shortly before the 2020 election. That was big news a few years ago. Yeah, it's not out. They don't see their political opponents as people. Listen to the way that the right talks about the left. They see left-wing thought as a virus, as a plague. The woke mind virus is what they call it, right? It's not opposing thought. It's not someone else's opinion. It's a sickness that has to be purged. That's what they see the left as. But if anyone on the left ever so much as gets offended at something they say, supposedly we're the ones trying to destroy their freedom of speech. As I've said a million times before, every accusation is a confession with these people.
Over 140 police officers were injured. Jill and I attended the funeral of police officers who died as a result of the events of that day. Because of Donald Trump's...
It's a little bit quiet. I'm going to volume boost this real fast.
Lies. They died because these lies brought a mob to Washington. He promised it would be wild, and it was. He told the crowd to fight like hell, and all hell was unleashed. He promised he would right them, everything they did. He would be side by side with them.
Didn't he literally call them, like, didn't he say they're very special? I believe in his statement that he finally had to make to tell them to leave the Capitol, he said, and I quote, "You're all very special." Did he not say that? Please, get me the clip. I swear he called his fans special. It was phenomenal. He called them his special little pog champs. I need that clip. It's so good. It's so goddamn good.
Then, as usual, he left the dirty work to others. He retreated to the White House. As America was attacked from within, Donald Trump watched on TV in a private small dining room off the Oval Office.
Off my Oval Office.
The entire nation watched.
No, he should have said my. He should have leaned into it. He should have said my Oval Office. He should have fucking. He should have said my Oval Office now and my Oval Office for the next 4 years. You should bring that Trump confidence of I'm gonna win to the stage. It's okay to be confident you're gonna win, as long as you don't, like, if you lose, then claim you won and the election was stolen, right?
In horror. The whole world watched in disbelief. And Trump did nothing. Members of his staff, members of his family, Republican leaders who were under attack at that very moment, pled with him. Act. Call off the mob. Imagine had he gone out and said, stop. And still, Trump did nothing. It was among the worst derelictions of duty by a president in American history. Sure. An attempt to overturn a free and fair election by force and violence. A record 81 million people voted for my candidacy and to end his presidency. Trump lost the popular vote by 7 million. Trump's claims about the 2020 election never could stand up in court. Trump lost 60 court cases.
Yeah, not only that, not only did Trump and his constituents who tried to challenge the electoral results across the country lose 60-plus court cases, but several of these court cases found out that actually some ballots had gone uncounted. And they were ballots for Biden. Biden's count in the end, after the challenges that some of these states faced in court, ended up being higher. Biden won by more votes in the end because of these challenges. Yeah. No, like, there was literally a span of time for like 2 years where every Trump constituent was just trying to fight the results of the election in court, and they lost every time. I made a lot of content about it back then. Can't believe people got mad at CNN for having Trump on to try to remind people how scary it is if he gets power. Well, CNN has really gone down the shitter, to be fair, so I wouldn't be surprised if the way they did it was distasteful and worthy of criticism. But Donald Trump kind of relies on the attention gained from media coverage, but he also relies on being ignored too, right? Like, there's a very important middle ground between giving him the attention enough to criticize him and remind people how bad he is without running advertising for him 24/7 nonstop. Although at the same time, the dude's literally been president. What harm can, like, making people be aware of him do at this point? He's possibly the most famous person in the world. I think I found the Trump clip.
Listen.
President Donald Trump releases video in response to the Capitol riot. Okay, let's check it out. Thank you, Heavy Griddle.
I would like to begin by addressing the heinous attack on the United States Capitol. Like all Americans, I am outraged by the violence.
Now he claims the January 6th insurrectionists are political hostages, by the way.
Lawlessness and mayhem. I immediately deployed the National Guard and federal law enforcement to secure the building and expel the intruders. America is and must always be a nation of law and order. The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defiled the seat of American democracy. To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, you will pay. We have just been through an intense election.
For those that broke the law, you will pay. They're political hostages. They're political hostages. The Democrats are after them. That's literally what he's running on for his current campaign, is that he, like, the promise to veto, or not veto, to pardon the January 6th Sixers who are being charged. Oh, okay. This is your very special clip here.
Good chase. Yep. When you're ready, sir. Yep. You'll be right behind me.
You tell me when.
When you're ready, sir.
This is great.
Who's behind me?
He's gone around. We're all clear now.
What is happening?
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had a election. Let me see.
Is this an outtake?
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel.
This was his original statement to the January 6thers. And then you've got the speech I just played where he says the law will come after you, yada, yada. You do not represent us. And then now he's claiming that they're political prisoners. The flip-floppiness is, I mean, it's nonstop. Your hair looks fantastic tonight. I appreciate that. I really hate it. I need to get a haircut. I need it to be short. I fucking hate it. It's so hard to keep, like, managed when it's this long. But yeah, Donald Trump, kind of a liar. A little bit of a liar. You know, he's kind of known for being a little bit of a liar.
60. Trump lost the Republican-controlled states. Trump lost before a Trump-appointed judge and then judges. And Trump lost before the United States Supreme Court. All of it. He lost. Trump lost recount after recount after recount and state after state. But in desperation and weakness, Trump and his MAGA followers went after election officials who ensured your power as a citizen would be heard. These public servants had their lives forever upended by attacks and death threats for simply doing their jobs. In Atlanta, Georgia, a brave black mother and her daughter, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, were doing their jobs as elected workers until Donald Trump and his MAGA followers targeted and threatened them, forcing them from their homes and unleashing racist vitriol on them.
Vitriol?
Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani.
Good job, closed captionings. I know they're auto-generated, but I think it's funny whenever they get it wrong.
Who was just hit with a $148 million judgment for cruelty and defamation that he inflicted against them. Other state and local elected officials across the country faced similar personal attacks. In addition, Fox News agreed to pay a record $787 million for the lies they told about voter fraud. Let's be clear about the 2020 election. Trump exhausted every legal avenue available to him to overturn the election. Every one.
And then he ran out.
But the legal path just took Trump back to the truth. That I'd won the election and he was a loser.
Well, for those that don't know, Donald Trump There's one word that Donald Trump considers like a slur against him. Like a word he cannot handle being called. He loves calling other people this word, and he refuses to be called this word. Loser. He can't stand it. It is his weak point. Biden calling him a loser there is such a good burn, because that is the worst thing for Trump to be called. He hates it more than anything. Nothing Biden could have called him there would burn him more than calling him a loser.
So knowing how his mind works now, he had one act left, one desperate act available to him: the violence of January the 6th. And since that day, more than 1,200 people have been charged for their assault on the Capitol. Nearly 900 of them have been convicted or pled guilty. Collectively, to date, they have been sentenced to more than 840 years in prison.
Damn. That's collectively.
And what's Trump done? Instead of calling them criminals, he's called these insurrectionists patriots. They're patriots. And he promised to pardon them if he returns to office.
Notice how much Trump's rhetoric around the January 6th insurrectionists has flip-flopped based on what he needs to say to look good at a given time, what audience he's speaking to, who he needs to get claps from.
Trump said that there was a lot of love on January the 6th. The rest of the nation, including law enforcement, saw a lot of hate and violence. One Capitol police officer called it a medieval battle.
Christ.
That same officer called vile rape.
I will be real. I did say at the time, it reminded me of the orcs, the Uruk-hai storming Helm's Deep, okay? I like the imagery of like the insurrectionists just like running up the stairs and like trying to get in through the doors and like surrounding the building. Just reminded me a lot of when the Uruk-hai attack Helm's Deep. So yeah, literally one of the Capitol Police commented something similar. That's hilarious.
Vile racist names. He said he was more afraid in the capital of the United States of America, in the chambers, than when he was fighting as a soldier in the war in Iraq. He said he was more afraid inside the halls of Congress than fighting in the war in Iraq. And trying to rewrite the facts of January 6th, Trump is trying to steal history the same way he tried to steal the election. But we knew the truth because we saw it with our own eyes. This wasn't like a story being told. It was on television repeatedly. We saw it with our own eyes. Trump's mob wasn't a peaceful protest. It was a violent assault. They were insurrectionists, not patriots. They weren't there to uphold the Constitution. They were there to destroy the Constitution. Trump won't do what an American president must do. He refuses to denounce political violence. So hear me clearly. I'll say what Donald Trump won't. Political violence is never, ever acceptable in the United States political system. Never, never, never. It has no place in a democracy. None.
I know some of you guys who are like super radical in chat will probably cringe at that, but I mean, that is the take that is politically acceptable in America. Like, the president can't go on stage and endorse political violence, obviously. Like that, yeah. So if you find this cringe from Biden, then please care about winning in politics and not about virtue signaling more, please.
You can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. And yet Trump and his MAGA supporters not only embrace political violence, but they laugh about it. At his rally, he jokes about an intruder whipped up by the big Trump lie, taking a hammer to Paul Pelosi's skull.
Oh, yeah.
They and echoing the very same words used in January.
Remember when Paul Pelosi was, like, assaulted by, like, a dude in their home, and everybody made up a rumor, like, the right made up a rumor about how it was, like, his gay Mister? Like, what would be a male mistress? Like Mister, I guess? I don't know. His male mister. Like, yeah, and they just made up a conspiracy because it wasn't enough that they could celebrate the husband of somebody they hate being assaulted and almost dying. They had to find a way to, like, make it an attack on a minority group, too. So, yeah. There you go.
January 6th, where's Nancy? And he thinks that's funny. He laughed about it. What a sick... My God. I think it's despicable, seriously. Not just for a president, for any person to say that. But to say it to the whole world listening. When I was overseas, anyway.
I love how he says, ooh, Vosh live stream. Don't go watch him. Watch me instead. I love how he ends it with, like, anyway. He doesn't even go on with the when I was overseas thing. He just says, anyway. I want to hear what that story was going to be. Was he about to, like, tell a story about that time that he gutted a man or something? What was he about to talk about? What the fuck? Was he about to tell a war story? I would hear a Biden war. I assume Biden served in the military, right? At some point, most presidents have. Not Trump, but, like, most have. Has Biden ever served? What did he mean by when he was overseas? Was it just, like, on a trip? Or was he ever in the military? What was he? Biden military service. Oh, no, he didn't, but his son did. Okay. I guess he just meant, like, on a trip overseas. He must just get... even the president gets stun-locked. You know what? You guys can never give me shit for getting stun-locked when we just watched the president of the United States just get stun-locked at a live speech, okay? I'm way better at not getting stun-locked than him, too. So you guys can't even say shit. I could be the president with my speaking skills.